ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download.
Check this out, we got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, The Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week, Thirsty Thursday, the Breakfast Bankroll, good friend and colleague, Mr. Scotty Webb, live from Tampa, talking Thursday night football, NFL. Minnesota travels to L.A., some breaking news this morning is former Colorado Buffalo, former Boston Celtic Chauncey Billups arrested, head coach Portland Trail Blazers, arrested, I guess, by FBI in the gambling charges. I mean, this will never end. The Cleveland Guardians and Class A won't allow a couple players to go pitch in the Dominican, I think. We all wanted gambling. We all wanted this, regulate it, let everyone, and here we go. So you can't win. If you can't beat them, join them, I guess. But anyways, give me a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. And, of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Scotty Webb. What's up, Scotty?
Morning, Jeff. I've got stories I could tell about the NBA from when I first started gambling back in the day, and just figuring it out. I was a 20-year-old kid back then, and you know how it was back then. You talk to people on the phone, and these guys are either full of shit or they actually knew something or whatever. Well, I had this guy who said, "Hey, look, I want you to play the over in this basketball game." And I go, "Why would I want to do that?" He goes, "Look, just play the over. I don't care. I don't care. Just play the over. I'm telling you." And I go, "Look, I need more information than just, you don't care." He goes, "Well, I'll just be honest with you. We're in the game." I go, "I don't know what that means. We're in the game." He goes, we have the timekeeper paid up for. He's paid for. He's gonna run the clock a little slower. He's gonna do different things. He's gonna make sure you play the over." And sure as shit, man, the game went over by like 40 points. I'm just saying, that can be hearsay bullshit. It can be all kinds of different things. But of all the games that I distrust the most, and most of this stuff is pure athletic, and it really is. It's none of this nonsense that you hear about all the time, is the NBA. I mean, these guys come from different backgrounds than a lot of other places, and that's either here nor there, but they have a lot more riding on how much money they make and what they do with their money and how many people they got to take care of and all the other stuff that other people don't. So, they make more money per person than any other sport. There's only 12 guys on an NBA team, and they make just as much money as a baseball team or a football team or a whatever team, because, it is what it is with the NBA. So So I have distaste and distrust in the NBA. I don't mind betting college kids, even though they do the same shit.
There's been a million scandals, even locally, BC, I think it was in the 80s, and then there was another scandal there, Arizona State. People don't seem to understand this, is all the plays are regulated. So NFL is the king. So big bets are a part of the NFL, and that's the only sport. So you and I talked at length, I think it was 2 years ago, LSU baseball, on a Monday or a Tuesday, and the pitcher that was supposed to pitch was hurt. Therefore, someone comes down, tries to place a huge bet, all of a sudden flagged. NBA, they get, I don't know, they might get 100,000 on each side, and someone comes in and wants to bet 250,000, or some of the players betting against themselves in props, or it's just, guys, you don't get it. You can't beat it. You're flagged. It's regulated. You're being watched on a microscope. Donaghy, the former NBA ref, did federal time. I was in Vegas in July, and actually was at the Bet Bash breakfast lunch. Was talking to a few people, and they were talking about the connections with Donaghy, and it went on like a 28-8 heater, and unfortunately he only got on it when it was too late. So my point is, all sports, I don't like to use fixed rigged. In the NFL especially, I talk about a pre-kickoff script. Refs are brought in. Refs are said to look for this week, and all of a sudden you see this penalty called more than you have all year. But when it comes to rigging, fixing, and all of that stuff, guys, listen, we've been doing this publicly for 10 years. My first wager was in 75, Red Sox Reds. I've seen it all. I've lived it all. The crooked services in the 80s and the 90s. What do I mean by that? Well, here's what I mean. You walk into the office and there's a game on the board. I'll use tonight's game. This is perfect. Minnesota and the Chargers are favored by 3.5. And you're handed your call sheets. So you call up and you introduce yourself. You got a 3-minute window, and you're trying to get information. So I call up Mr. Scott Webb. Hey, Mr. Webb, Jeff Dawson, Pick'em Sports, how you doing? And back then in the 80s and 90s, there was no cell phones. There was no, you either talked or you didn't talk. And by the end of that 3 minutes, Scotty either going to talk to me and tell me he's betting 500 a game and he's betting 50 a game, or he's telling me he's betting 50 a game or 500. And I give him my 800 number and I tell him, Mr. Webb, this can't lose. Take the Chargers minus 3.5, and when it wins, because it's going to win. Call me tomorrow and we'll set you up with a package for the weekend. I hang up. And then I pick up the phone and there's Mr. Lucky. Hey, Mr. Lucky, it's Jeff Dawson from blah, blah, blah sports. How you doing? I do it all again. And at the end, I say, hey, Mr. Lucky, take the Vikings plus 3.5. And when it wins, because it's going to win, call me back. Well, what happens on Friday is, you give out 100 picks on Thursday, 50 to the left, 50 to the right, Scott. And Friday morning, you're going to have 50 winners and 50 losers. The 50 losers are the ones that are going to call you back. What happened? I lost my mortgage, and it's all bullshit. You know how gamblers are. And the moral of the story is I give you 3 games, hope to go 3-0 or 2-1. If I go 0-3 or 1-2, I just pass it off. And the winners you called trying to say, hey, we were 1-0. I told you it can't lose. And then you tried to get them signed up. And that was the ugly part of the 80s and 90s. And there's still people doing that, Scotty. There's still people playing both sides. And so my point is, we as sports investors, we as the guys that have been wagering on sports for 50 years, we're always the lepers. We were the guys in the corner. Oh my God, that guy over there, he bets on sports. And we were the bad guys. And once it was passed, finally, passed, and it was supposed to open up the eyes of everyone, because you got the stock market, you got Bitcoin, you got day trading, you got everything. There's nothing you can't wager or invest in. And here it is again, the black eye in sports, the fix. Now a coach, a part of potentially gambling, Scotty.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's all part of life, right? I mean, I suppose I sent you an email, by the way, just a few minutes ago, right before the show started, because I wanted to share with you some data that I'm using now for the NFL, which is similar to games on paper. So I wanted you to see it. Anyway, it comes to me through an email. It's not a website. So anyway, the reason I bring that up is because I've kind of been doing some talking to my wife and listening to some podcasts and some different things that are out there. And one of the things that I heard a guy say was, he was trying to describe podcasts and people like us, and he was trying to say what's valuable, what's not valuable. So in other words, he's saying, when you give out picks and they win, is that good? If you give out picks and they lose, is that bad? Or when you give out information and strategy around the information and how to bet, is that good? Or is the content you provide better than the results? Because obviously results are going to be short term, and over the course of long term, people don't look at it that way. Like our show gets 50 live viewers, whatever, and we get 150 people or 200 people that watch us after the show's over. So those aren't necessarily always the same people, and they're certainly not going to watch every single solitary show. And they're not going to know exactly what plays we bet and which ones we didn't, and what our records are and what they aren't, and whether they're good, whether they're bad. So I think it's a segment of time that people watch you, and the reality becomes is I thought it was a good question, does your picks really matter if they win, right? Does it really matter if they win? Because we've had great weeks on this show, and we've had some, whatever weeks on this show. It doesn't change the viewpoint. It doesn't change how many people watch. It doesn't change. Obviously, nobody asks enough questions. Nobody wants to hear, breakdowns of games. So what I guess I'm trying to get to is, what really is the value source here? And the reason I sent you the stuff that I just did for the NFL is because the guy made one really, really good point, and the really, really good point, and I thought that I would tie that into today's show as best I can. And he made the comment that if you hear a person who's on talking, and they say things like, Buffalo is going to cover this weekend because, they had a bye, and, they're going to cover because they had an extra time off. Well, that's not good enough, right? That's just bullshit. That's just happenstance. That's whatever. If you hear a trend that comes out and says, well, these teams off of, 2 straight losses in this situation, they're well, again, that's a segment of time that has nothing to do with the line, the market, betting, none of that. It has nothing to do with anything. And then he made another comment that is kind of right up my alley, where, I talk about data and sports and stuff. And he's like, well, you can do that all you want to, but if you don't tie it back to where the value in the number is, then it's not good data. So that's what I'm going to plan on doing. So I use this data for games on paper, and I just gave you some more for the NFL. And what his point is, look, you can go through all this advanced data like I do, and you can come out and run it through a model, and you can go and say, well, the score is going to be XYZ to XYZ. But if you don't tie it back to, hey, the reason that I think this is a good bet is because the market is off on this viewpoint of that data. that's where that's where the value in what you're doing matters. Because if you just throw data out there like I have been, I don't think that that it resonates. So this week I'm going to try to do that a little bit better with the plays that I picked in and the different stuff that I go with. So anyway, different food of thought.
All right. Well, before we dive into the in-pocket plays, any questions, comments, concerns, or thought process? Minnesota playing the Chargers in LA. The opening number of Chargers -3 with a 42 and a hook. Now at the Circa. Good morning, Mr. Benson, Mr. Stevens. 3 -20 cents, which means the next move will go to 3.5 at the Circa with a 44 and a half. Obviously, they're telling us, you got that 24-20, 23-20, somewhere in there. Minnesota sticking with Wentz at least for one more week. Chargers get blown out against the almighty Colts last week. Minnesota gets blown out at home against the Eagles. If I had to choose a side that's more in the sense of urgency, I would lean the Chargers, but they're decimated with injuries. Any thoughts on Minnesota and the Chargers, Scotty?
Yeah, I bet this game actually, the data that I sent you, I ran it through an NFL model, so to speak. And one of the things that came out of that I thought was pretty good. The Minnesota Vikings are a middling type offense. I mean, they're ranked 22nd in the league. So then you're going to face a pretty decent defense in what the Chargers can do. The Chargers aren't the greatest offense in the world, and certainly they also aren't the most explosive offense in the world with big plays and and all that stuff. I mean, they got a big play type quarterback. So they're going to face a really good defense in Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota's defense is pretty solid. It's pretty good. So where this game came down to, kind of where I think it kind of matters, is I don't think that, how do I say this the right way? So the market, right, started this game, I think it was like 43 and a half was the total. It's 45. So I think that market move is based off of, well, Joe Alt's going to play for the Chargers this week, so the lineman's going to get better. So that means they're going to be a little bit more healthy on offense, so they're going to move the ball better. Well, one guy making that impact, I think, is a little bit too much to ask. I mean, it's not a quarterback coming back. I mean, look at the number with Lamar coming back, right? I mean, how bad Baltimore's been, and now they're a touchdown favorite. So I think where the market's moving is it's moving towards scoring more points, and I don't believe that it should, because I think that this is a definite under game. So, when I run the model through and I come out, it comes out 24-17 Chargers, with the idea that Carson Wentz can turn the ball over. He's prone to not converting third downs, and you just get a sense that the quarterback on the other side will find a way to win the game. So I like the Chargers side, but I like the under better. So I bet this game under 45 was what I bet today.
All right, I'm going to show everyone here the in-pocket plays this week for Mr. Webb, and we'll break a couple games down via a game on paper. Where are we here? Let's go find it here. For Scotty Webb this week, Alabama -11.5, Southern Miss -10.5, Temple -5.5, Vanderbilt -2.5, and San Diego State -2.5. Which game would you like to go to first, sir?
Oh, I don't care. I mean, we can go to any game you'd like. I obviously I have all that stuff run and data on them. For those who want an underdog, I did bet BYU plus the number 2. So if you want an underdog, I bet that. I also like, underdog wise, I like LSU this week. I think they're going to beat Texas A&M outright. So anyway, those are two underdog plays that I do like.
All right, let me see where my eyes are here. Let's
These
go.
are all 3:30. They're all 3:30 games. So if you look at 3:30, that's where you'll find all these games on games on paper.
Right, go here, and here you go, Mr. Scotty. Got the A&M LSU game.
That one's a late game, right? I got it, 7:00. All right. So what's interesting about this LSU game, and I've put it out here. It just ranks lower on my so I did. I'm trying to count how many I did. I did 17 games through the AI portal, so to speak, with this information and different breakdown and analysis that I add to it. So the LSU game came in at number 9 on that ranking. So it's not something I'm going to bet just because I think there's other bets better. That said, this is the side I would choose. And if I go back up here and I start to pull that game, so there's a couple things here. So LSU, they're 12-2 against the spread at home at night. And what needs to happen, and if I pull up my other sheet and I go to that LSU game, I'm trying to find out my other spreadsheet. There it is. So one of the things that I look at that gets me started in the right direction is yards per point margin. So what does that mean? That means however many yards a team has margin-wise over the other, and then divided into points, comes out to how many yards does it really take to score points, or how many points can they get based on the yards that they gain. And you want to, obviously, the larger the number, the better, meaning that you're gaining a lot of yards and points versus a team that's not. So in this case, LSU starts off with 4.9 yards per point and margin, and Texas A&M is only 1.2. So what does that really tell you? Well, it tells you that LSU is way more proficient than Texas A&M. Texas A&M start, stop, and it could all be one-sided when you break it down and kind of look at it from a different perspective. Maybe it's all on defense, maybe it's all on offense. We don't know that yet. And then the other thing that kind of stood out it doesn't really stand out, but the turnover margin is 0.3 to the good for LSU, 0.1 to Texas A&M. So it's a little bit better for LSU. Now, keep in mind, they're playing at home, too. And when it comes to quarterback play, Texas A&M quarterback's pretty good. He's 35th QBR, but LSU's quarterback is 33rd. So they're very compatible with those kinds of things. And then you tie that back to the actual breakdown of the game at the top where it says EPA per play for Texas A&M is 0.21. They rank 21st. And for LSU, it's 0.18. They rank 32nd. So these are very, very similar teams in terms of how they move the ball, efficiency rank, and all that kind of stuff. And then the success rate's a little bit more shaded towards where Texas A&M is, and their available yards is a little bit more. So that means they're a little more explosive than what LSU is. But then when you start to look at how they match up, right? Offensive drive EPA for Texas A&M, they rank 24th. The defense for LSU ranks 26th. So it's minus 5.4 EPA against 0.89. So then you have the 53rd offense against the 39th offense. So there's not a lot of variance between the two teams. And when you start to really think about, okay, if there's not a lot of variance between the two teams, why is the road team the favorite? Well, the road team's the favorite just because of more of a sexy name, and they haven't lost yet. So when it comes to LSU, I think LSU's getting a little discredited here. And to be honest, when I ran it through the model, we're looking at LSU's plus turnover rate margin, home night game, offsets a little bit of what anything that Texas A&M might have as a great thing. It also says under might be a good spot here. 23-20 LSU is kind of where it comes out, and I kind of agree. My only concern is Brian Kelly messing it up, and kind of going from there. So, if a team like Arkansas, now again they got a good offense, but if a team like Arkansas can go score over 40 points on Texas A&M's defense, I think LSU can score at least 20. So I'm in that neighborhood that says this is not an easy game for Texas A&M, and to be honest, I think LSU is probably the right side here.
And it's funny, the difference between a 3:30 start and a 7:30 start in Baton Rouge is eye-opening. And you get a 7-0 team with A&M versus a 5-2 team with LSU. Nussmeier was one of the preseason pre-flop Heisman hopefuls. The season on the line. I'll tell you this outright right now. If Kelly loses this game on Saturday, he's gone. Brian Kelly, yeah, exactly. He's losing a little luster. The natives are getting restless in Baton Rouge. So, again, it's kind of funny, though, 2.5. I'm going to wait for a big move tonight. Remember, guys, it's Thursday. The Texas oil money will be rolling into Vegas tonight. So we'll be looking see which side they are on the A&M side. Also on the Dallas Cowboys side against Denver. Last week, Washington was 2-point favorites against Dallas. And then Thursday night, next thing you know, I wake up Friday morning and Dallas is 1.5-point favorites. So the Dallas oil money was on the right side there. So again, I'll be looking deep at that one as well. Let me see here, Scotty. We went there. Let's go to let's see. Let's go here. Alabama travels to South Carolina. Alabama 6-1, 4-0 in conference play. South Carolina, great quarterback, 3-4, 1-4 in conference. I think last time I saw Scotty, Alabama was laying about 12.5.
Yeah, I think this game opened at like 13.5. I think they expected it to go to 14 and up. People are taking the South Carolina side, or the market's going on the South Carolina side, and there's one specific reason for that, and the big reason is that look at who Alabama has played in the last 4 games. In the last 4 games, Alabama beat Tennessee, they beat Missouri, they beat Vanderbilt, and they beat Georgia. So in the last 4 games, they played four ranked opponents, and they beat those 4 ranked opponents. This is a perfect letdown spot for them. This is a spot where Alabama needs to be sharp, and so forth. So why am I betting on Alabama? Well, let's go back to that, and let's just scroll up to the quarterback play there. Just scroll up just a little bit. Look at Ty Simpson's numbers. A little bit more. There you go. It should be now back down just a little bit. Back down just a little bit more, right? And it should be a little bit more, right there. Look at his numbers. He's completing 70% of his passes, thrown for almost 2,000 yards. He's got 18 touchdowns and 1 interception. Look, here's what I'm going to say about this game in particular. This game, I got it at 11.5. This is going to be good. Anything under 13. Anything under 13. So if it's 12, it's still very bettable. And now here's the reason why I say this. First of all, you got to understand that this offense for Alabama is doing extremely well. I just showed you that they scored 18 touchdowns to the quarterback. They scored 37 on Tennessee, 27 on Missouri, 30 on Vanderbilt, and 24 on Georgia. Not to include they got 38 on Wisconsin, 73 on, they're just a juggernaut on offense. And the quarterback now has turned things around, and he's playing extremely well. And when you think about it in a bigger picture of things, how many stops does the Alabama defense need to make sure they cover, in this case, 11 and a half, 12, or 13? Well, say they win by 2 touchdowns. They need 2 stops in the whole game. And then when you think about, okay, they need 2 stops in the whole game, and then you go look at what the offense looks like for South Carolina. The offense ranks 103rd in EPA per play. They rank 108th or 126th in success rate. Success rate's the moving the chains, keeping things going kind of opportunity there. They're 103rd passing. They're 120th rushing. They're 118th on available yards. The starting field position for them is 97th. EPA per down on the early downs is 127th. So what does that mean? So on first down, second down, they're not going to gain very many yards. So that's going to put them 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 9 all day long. They're not going to convert that. And their third down average distance is 134th out of 135 schools. That's their offense. So if we're going to say Alabama needs to make just 2 stops in this whole game to cover 14 points, I'm going to do it. I think that's the value in the play. So even though, and I made sure that I put this in here. So it says Alabama's offense is elite offense. It's going to play in middling defense and they're good. They're just middling from some South Carolina. They got a big turnover edge. They got a big quarterback edge. And the only disadvantage that Alabama has is this is a letdown spot for them. Well, even though it's a letdown spot, I think they can cover the 13 and a half because all you got to do is stop the opponent a couple times and you're going to be good. So I think this turns out to when I talk about, how I put these in there and then I rank them. This is the number one play that the AI bot comes out with.
And this is a huge spot for Bama because they have a week off and then they play LSU. So, again, big spot, this Alabama team. Don't forget, lost the first game of the year at Florida State, 13-point favorites. Have been rolling, no pun intended, roll tide the rest of the way here. So it's a big spot. Scotty, before, we wrap things up here, there's a game that smells to me. And there's a team in the SEC that's been rolling, and they got a lightning rod at quarterback. I'm talking about Vanderbilt and Diego here. And this team just 2.5-point favorites beat LSU. And yet they're 2.5-point favorites now against Missouri. Now I'm not as high on Missouri as most people are. Missouri finally traveled on the road. Missouri finally loses. And yet Vanderbilt is only 2.5-point favorites here. Does the Diego Express keep on rolling, especially at home here? Or are my spidey senses up on this and saying Missouri's the right side here?
Well, I think this is one of the tougher ones that I had, and I bet Vanderbilt. So I'm going to tell you that I'm on Vanderbilt in this game. Now, the way this kind of breaks down and the way this goes is you've got a 68th ranked offense from Missouri that's a little bit inconsistent on EPA per play, and going against a Vanderbilt defense that's just a middling defense. It's not the greatest defense in the world. So what is it that they can take advantage of, and what can't they? So against Vanderbilt, and the defense that Vanderbilt's going to throw out there, it's projecting that they're going to get maybe 250, 275 yards, 17 to 20 points, and they have turnover woes. So one of the things that I thought was really good about what the AI taught me a little bit about is when you look at that, you sit there and go, it's kind of capped, meaning that there's not a more plus side to it. If you are in a spot where turnovers can't help you. You're on the road, that can't help you. Your quarterback's not as good as the other quarterback. Your yards per point average isn't as good as the other team. You're not going to get the efficiency growth window. Your points that you could possibly score can only be so many. So they're capped at that number. And then when you look at where Vanderbilt comes in, they've got the 33rd net EPA offense going against, and they're an explosive offense going against Missouri on the road, and that allows them to have some exploited opportunities, some exploit plays, some bigger spots where, if you look at the available yards for them, that they're pretty good, plus 20. I think that's going to give them some of those explosive plays. And I think that's where, you look at it and go, I can't bet against them at home. Now, they played Alabama really good for the first half and then got kind of beat up in the second half. But you got to remember, Missouri just played Alabama and they got beat. So this is another one of those spots here where I think you can go and say, well, Bo Pabula, who's the quarterback for Missouri, is going to have to be the better quarterback. I'm not willing to bet that. So I'm going to bet on the kid that's been real good. His QBR rating, let me pull it up. I got it right here. This game is, let me find it on the other deal. LSU's game. Where are you? You are Missouri and Vanderbilt. Where did you go? There you are. So Bo Pabula ranks 21st, really good, but he's not 6th, and that's where you find Padilla. Yards per point margin, positive 4.0 for Vanderbilt, negative 0.1, or basically 0 for Missouri. And when it comes to strength of schedule, Vanderbilt 27 and Missouri 28, and turnover margin is negative 0.7 for Missouri, positive 0.2 for Vanderbilt. So you got a positive turnover margin. You've got better efficiency model. You've got a better quarterback, similar strength of schedule, home field. I think all of that adds up to, and it comes then when it breaks it down, it gives you a score, predicted score anyway, 24-17 Vanderbilt over Missouri. I'm going to take them under the 2.5 and only have to cover the field goal. And that play, when it came down to, was ranked, I think, 4th on the list. Let me see. There we go. 4th. So Alabama, Southern Miss, Temple, Vanderbilt, BYU, San Diego State is how the AI ranked all the games I put in it. And I put in, almost 20.
Well, before we head off, I'm going to go to one of the bigger games here, and it's Ole Miss travels to Oklahoma, and an Oklahoma team that got its quarterback back. It's got one of the best defenses in the country versus Lane Kiffin, and coming off a loss at Alabama, Georgia, excuse me, and basically the season on the line for both teams here. John Mateer back, get a few games under his belt. Back at home, Ole Miss off of a loss here, Scotty. Highlighted, as I said, as one of the better games of the week. Here, opened at 4 with a 51.5. It's gone up to 54.5, which to me is an Ole Miss total, but the spread has gone from 4 to 5. There are some 5.5s here. Any thoughts on Ole Miss traveling to Oklahoma?
Yeah, so this game comes in, and out of the 17 games, it ranks like 12th on my list. So it didn't make the cut to actually make a wager on. So that part of it, in terms of betting, didn't quite work out. But what you've got really here in this game is you've got, let me get it on this other sheet. Old Miss is positive 2.9 yards per point. That's pretty good. And their quarterback is eighth ranked quarterback QBR. So this backup quarterback's been better than their first team quarterback by far. I mean, he ranks eighth, so that's really good. But you're going against 8.3 yards per point for Oklahoma. Now, here's what I will say: Oklahoma doesn't score as many points as Ole Miss does. So how does that rank that way? Look, their defense is so elite. They're the number one defense in college football. So their defense adds to this. Remember, this is yards per point margin. So they're taking away a lot of things. Hey, Debbie, thank you for the heart there. They're taking away a lot of different things that the opponent can do. And then when you start to look at turnover margin, they're about the same. I was a little bit surprised. I would have thought that Oklahoma's defense made it so that their turnover margin was better, but it's minus 0.6 for Ole Miss, which I kind of anticipated. But it's also minus 0.5 for Oklahoma. So I thought that's kind of weird. But then when you go look at the breakdown of the game, like what you've got going on over there, I got to go pull it up. But it's a noon game, I think. There it is. So when you pull this up and you start to look at it, look at the EPA per play. Ole Miss is 38 at plus 14. EPA per play for Oklahoma, they are 7th at plus 29. So where does that come from? Look at their defense. Number 1 against the pass, number 10 against the run, number 1 against available yards. Starting field position, number 12. EPA on early downs, number 1. Third down, fourth down success, number 1. On average third down distance, number 3. It's going to be extremely hard for Ole Miss to sustain offense. But on the other side, the defense for Ole Miss, that's their biggest weakness. Their defense ranks 94th in all of college football. And against the run, they are 128th. 128th. And I think it was last week. They played Georgia last week, right? So
yes.
If you look at the box score in that game against Georgia, Georgia ran the ball. I'm trying to pull it up here. 1 second. Georgia, where is it? Yards. So Georgia rushing. Georgia rushed the ball for 289 yards against Ole Miss. So I get it that Oklahoma may not be quite the rushing team that Georgia is, but if you can't stop the basic fundamental of the run, I don't think you're going to be able to stop. You're going to be able to stop this team. So the model comes out 34-27, high scoring game with Oklahoma winning and obviously covering. But again, that ranked 12th out of the 17 games that I put in there. So it didn't quite make the cut in terms of actually something to bet compared to the other games. But my opinion would be I think Oklahoma's the right side. So as this line is moving, I think it's probably correct, although I wouldn't want to be, any higher than where it is currently. I wouldn't want to bet it.
Scotty's in-pocket plays: Alabama minus 11.5, Southern Miss minus 10.5, Temple minus 5.5, Vanderbilt minus 2.5, San Diego State minus 2.5. We'll go back over some more of these games that we didn't break down tomorrow. Set your dial again for 9:15. Myself and Scotty will be back. Before we close here, I need you to help me and Mr. Lucky here. We're in the Westgate Superbook card contest, and NFL, not for long, any given Sunday. You know how it works. They're never sharper than any other sport than the NFL. And there's a game here that we're, looking at spots, looking at situations. And the Saints last week 5.5 point dogs, and they closed as one of the public trendy dogs, closed around 4.5. Spencer Rattler, 3 turnovers. They had an opportunity. The back door was wide open, and another turnover, and the Bears get their 4th win in a row and cover. Tampa travels to New Orleans this week. I'm showing a 5.5 opener with a 47.5 down to 4 here. It smells to holy heaven. I'm one of these guys where this, Scotty, if I had you last week, I can't go against you this week. Meaning we had the Saints last week and we went against you. I can't go against you. We did have the Lions over the Bucks. So again, we were right there. The Bucks 3-1 on the road. Baker's been amazing. A spot where most people will say it's a perfect bounce back spot. Mike Evans potentially done for the year. I don't think Bucky Irvin will be back. Ibuka not 100%. They got the Johnson crew at wide receiver. Cade Otton. Again, I lean Baker Mayfield obviously over Rattler. It's a spot where most people think it's a good bounce back spot for the Bucks. What are you seeing in this game?
So here's what I think. I think you got a rookie head coach in I forget what his name is, Kellen Moore for New Orleans. I think you have a team that people like to bet on for some reason. They like to bet on these Saints. I don't think the Saints have proven anything to anybody. I think that in my opinion they're overrated. Now I do think the Bucks are very banged up in their skill positions. But let me hit you with this, Jeff. So the Buccaneers through last week, their offense is EPA ranked 11th. Okay, that's probably about right. I mean, when you think about it, if they had their other guys there, maybe they'd be in the top 10, which is maybe where they should be, but they're not. So they're 11th. They're 11th on passing, and they're 19th on they're 19th rushing. Okay, so that makes sense, right? They haven't had a running back and whatever. Well, the Saints can stop the run. Now they rank 7th on stopping the run, but the Saints. There's 32 teams in the NFL. They rank 26th at stopping the pass, and their defense ranks a total of 22nd. So I don't think they're going to stop them that much, and I don't think that Baker Mayfield might throw the ball 40 times in this game. So I don't think you're going to see. And when it comes to where's the pressure model at? There it is. So the Saints don't. So here's what you'll get a big kick out of. The Saints are number 8 in blitz rate on defense. That's a lot. They blitz a lot. Well, guess what? They are number 32 out of 32 teams in effectiveness when they blitz. So the blitz is let them blitz. What's going to then happen? Well, Baker Mayfield's going to pick them apart and throw them to the backs and throw them to the tight ends and the different guys he does have available. So I think that's a problem. Pressure EPA for the Tampa Bay offense, they rank 8th. So that means when he gets pressured and he's good. Well, we've seen that, right? We've seen him make these goofy plays and do the stuff and run around like a crazy person and make the plays. On the other side, you're people who want to bet on the Saints. You got to understand there's 32 teams in the NFL. They rank 28th in offense. And, when you look at EPA, it should be a positive number. Well, EPA in this case is negative 0.6. That's not very good. And they're going to go against the middling defense. I mean, Tampa Bay's defense isn't the greatest. They're minus 0.1 or 13th. New Orleans struggles is they're 27th in the league at passing, and they are 20th. Well, I guess they struggle everywhere. They're 20th at rushing, right? Well, the Tampa Bay defense is going to stop that. They rank 4th against the run. So that makes them one-dimensional. And if you have a one-dimensional offense and your offense is run by Spencer Rattler, good luck. my opinion is that I understand situational spots. I understand all that stuff. I get it. It's a road game. This is one of those spots where you want to take divisional home dogs and all that stuff. Look, Tampa Bay is going to beat them. Tampa Bay is going to win this game, and I think Tampa Bay is going to cover the number. But they've been playing a lot of close games. But I think they cover the number here. I just don't think that New Orleans is all that team that's cracked up to be, one of those spots. I mean, look how good the Falcons are playing. Well, Tampa Bay went to Atlanta and beat Atlanta in Atlanta. So I think that this is one of these spots where maybe I'm disrespecting New Orleans too much, but I think those that are giving credit to New Orleans is probably thinking like they're, how many people are out there giving credit to the Jets, and how many people are out there giving credit to these teams that just aren't good enough to give credit to. I get it. The line's supposed to, make that good. But I mean, look what Cincinnati just did. Cincinnati went and got a 40-year-old quarterback. And at the same time, they got the 40-year-old quarterback. Now they play the Jets, and they're 7-point favorites. How bad are the Jets, right? Their owners out there saying that it's all the fault of the quarterback, so they're going to put in a new quarterback. Well, Tyrod Taylor, okay, great. I think that's his name, right? I know it's something like that. Anyway, they're going to put him in the game, and how much better is that? I mean, come on, like. Some of these NFL teams, Jeff, and you saw it. We talked about it on the show last week or whatever weekday it was. You like to use that phrase that there's 6 good teams and 6 really bad teams. Well, New Orleans is one of really bad teams. Well, they're kind of on the kind of cusp of being they're not as bad as the Jets, but they're not very good. So when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I can't give them credit. I just can't.
It's comical. They allowed 25 points early to the Patriots. Early in the third quarter, the Patriots got the last touchdown, and then the Patriots didn't score the rest of the third and the whole fourth quarter. They go to Chicago, and again, opened at 5.5. We got them at 5. It closed at 4, and then by the kickoff, I'm like, shit, this is one of the public trendy dogs. We're on the wrong side. But it was the 3 turnovers. And they were driving late to get us the backdoor cover and another turnover. And I look at this and the numbers that you were telling me, they don't need. Kamara can run into the line a half dozen times, 8-9 times. But he also can probably catch 9 to 12 balls this week out of the backfield. And you talked about them blitzing. Well, what happens if they don't blitz or they show blitz and back off? And what happens if Rattler doesn't turn over the ball? And again, it's not a game that I'm running to the window to bet the Saints. My point is, again, the number smells to me. And it's a perfect bounce back spot for the Bucks. But sometimes you got to really dig deep. They're banged up, Scotty. And again, it's their second straight game on the road. Short week. They were on Monday night against Detroit. Yes, it's a get-well spot for them. But again, you don't want Baker also throwing the ball 50 times, Scotty.
Here, I'm going to do this real fast. I'm going to put that information, like I just sent you an email, into the AI computer, and we will see what it says. Hold on. It's just copy, cut, and paste, and put some of this in here. And I gotta tell it a couple things. So let's put this in there. Paste. All right. So now this game is Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Tampa Bay is what? They're minus what? Tampa Bay's minus what?
Right now, currently, let's give it a 4.
-4 with a total of what?
Let's give it a 47.
47. All right. Please provide your best and most complete analysis of this All right. So this is how fast this goes, by the way.
I'm going to say it spits out 24-20 bucks.
So game overview: Tampa Bay 5-2 facing New Orleans 1-6 in a rivalry clash on Fox at 4:05. It goes through all this shit. Buccaneers enters the 4-point road favorite with a total of 47. The line opened at 5.5.
Yep.
After injury notes, most notably Saints quarterback. The Saints have a quarterback problem?
Not that I'm aware of, no. Other than they don't have one.
Yeah, so Spencer Rattler's going to play. Obviously, we got some. So expect Tampa Bay to dictate pace in this game with Baker Mayfield's efficiency and stout defense. So then it talks about the Buccaneers offense, the Saints offense, which I can go into if you want to. But it comes out, final score, Buccaneers 23, Saints 13.
Okay.
And it says, so prediction is Buccaneers cover the 4. The game falls under 47. Tampa Bay has a balanced attack, and Mayfield's poise overwhelm the depleted Saints line. What does it say? While New Orleans defense holds early, that crumbles late. Rattler's inexperience and Saints 1-6 skid limit them to under 250 yards, with Tampa Bay's turnover edge sealing it. The underfits defensive matchups combined in a low projection with dome conditions favoring Tampa Bay's discipline.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the start of the year. You had a walk-off win opening week in Atlanta. Then you go on Monday night. You had another walk-off win in Houston. That's 2. And then you go to Seattle, if I remember correctly, and you boat race them. So that's 3. Your first road loss came on Monday to Detroit, which was a perfect bounce-back spot for them. And now short week travel to, again, the key to success in any football game is winning the turnover battle. And if Baker just stays amongst himself, wide receiver core banged up, but you got a good tight end with Otten. You got a good defense that puts pressure on a quarterback. And again, I'm not here to defend the Saints play, but I just find it comical. It opened at 5.5, and there's actually a 3.5 at the Hard Rock Cafe, which is just mind-boggling. ESPN bet too, which is useless to me anyways. But at the Circa right now, 4 with the 47.
So, one of the things that I think that you can do in the NFL, and you got to find it a little bit, but there's 2 things I like to look at before I actually make bets. I obviously couldn't do it today. But Phil Steele, if you have the access to his breakdowns of the games, his what I think it's called In the Box or something like that. I don't remember. There's something like that. And his computer will break down a game. But I don't care about all that stuff. What I look at specifically, there's one thing. I look at the game grade that the team got in the last game. You know how this works for me, because you see me do this in baseball every single day, right? So one of the things I look at is the starting pitcher and what was their game score, right? That's the same idea. It's the same concept. Well, if you follow that forward in the NFL or in college football, you get the same story. And that story is if a team played their very best game, they're not going to do that again the next week. It's going to be lower. So the expectations aren't as high. Now, in some cases, right, because the NFL only plays, they're not playing 160 games. So the expectations got to be kind of grouped around it. But what's cool about those game grades is they're graded throughout every game that's been played in the NFL. So it's either 1 or it's 700 or something like that. So if a team played poorly, they're not going to play as poorly before. Or when you look at how many times they've played, kind of what's their average game grade and where do they kind of go? Well, if you look at the game grade that you're going to see, and I can't see it until this comes out, it won't come out till Friday or Saturday. or I won't have access to it, put it that way, until Friday or Saturday. I think you're going to see that Tampa Bay had probably one of their worst game grades playing Detroit, right? I mean, they weren't in that game. They were behind the whole way. The whole first half, was terrible for them. They played better in the second half. But so that tells me they're not going to play that bad again. They're going to play better than that. So how much better than that needs to be in there to cover 3.5 is what you're telling me now, or 4 against, a team that's in the bottom feeders of the NFL. I still think it's the right choice to be on Tampa Bay side.
In 1 hour, myself, hopefully Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets at Odds Culture will be back in at around 11:30. Matt Grissom at Grissom on X NCAA Insiders to talk the Westgate Superbook college football card. As well, myself and Scotty will be back around 9:15 tomorrow morning. More in-pocket plays. We'll recap what went on with the Chargers in Minnesota. We'll preview, again, his thoughts in the World Series as well. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Mr. Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB. Wish everyone a blessed morning. Go grab yourself a bagel, an espresso, and tune back in 1 hour. Stay tuned.